I opened the front door to let my dog out, accidentally hit him in the face, and he cried, and then I cried.
Oh, how sad. When did I start needing a cup of coffee in the morning just to deal? Oh, that's right. When I got old.
Yeah, then my house smells like barbecue. I haven't barbecued ever, and I don't even really like the smell of barbecue.
Those pesky fires. Hey, anyone want to buy 40 pairs of skinny jeans?
I'll get right on that, Heather. Have such a good day. Hello, world. Welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody feeling this week? Oh, it's a good, strong week out there. Sun is shining. What's going on with you guys?
Oh, Heather, I love your optimism.
I really am. I'm
I
like sort
really
of
do.
blindly optimistic.
Because
It's for better or worse though, you know?
I truly, I mean, and I won't, I will not belabor this point because I just feel like I've talked about it with, people around me so much, but I live in Northern California. There are fires and it's horrible. And I was evacuated for a week and hung out with my mom. Luckily, she's close to me and that was all great. Like I'm super lucky. It could have been so much worse, but man, can they take a D? Really. It's just I am so happy to be back in my own home. Like,
You have gone through the ringer though. I mean, it's like you don't, it's like I see why people have major sleep problems these days, especially because you don't know what's going to hit you in the middle of the night now. It's like you can't, you
it's so
don't know
true.
what you're going to wake up to. I mean, it's truly like a real thing now. It's like maybe during good times that was also true, but these things didn't happen as often. Or maybe it's the 24-hour news cycle. I don't know. But yeah, it's chaotic out there. I'm glad you're home and you and Oat and Lut are safe.
We
And it was
are, we
scary,
are.
or it's still scary, actually. It's not
I
over.
mean, the whole thing is scary. Listen, if you live in an area where there is a fire, it's everyone's worried about fires, and when it becomes, at the end of, I don't know, the summer or before the rainy season begins, which isn't even really much of a rainy season because, again, California, we
Hmm.
all just kind of worry about this. Anyway, this is the show. I will talk about doom and gloom in just a moment, but before I do that, this is the show that we actually want to kind of come together with all of you and have such a good day because life is hard. Everybody's kind of struggling.
Mhm.
And if we have each other, it makes it better.
It does. And, you know, we may be talking about gloom and doom stuff, but if you haven't noticed, we tend to laugh in the end because there's always something you
That's
kind of
right.
have to have a sense of humor about stuff in life. Because if you don't, you kind of can't really, do much but wither. So we really try to find the humor in everything, even if it's really, really dark, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're doing our best, and we love all of you, and all of the feedback that we've gotten from you is like just so great, and so thanks to everybody.
It
We're
warms our
we
little black hearts.
Yeah, it really does, and they are black.
It's
Um,
super black.
but it's funny, Heather. You mentioned dreams, so I wanted to I wanted to talk about like the absolute weirdest dream that I've ever had in my entire life, which is saying something because I have weird dreams. So, and a little bit of background on this is so I'm a data nerd, like I love data. So, I have a Fitbit wearable, like a smartwatch where it, tracks my steps and my miles, my calories and blah blah blah. And there's a whole, kind of app that's associated with that. But one of the other things that it does is it tracks my sleep. So in the morning, I wake up and I kind of, get my coffee, my water, do my walk. And within about, I don't know, an hour or so of me getting up, like it kind of it figures out what it wants to tell me. And it will tell me like, okay, you slept for, 6 hours, and 4 of those hours were REM. One of those hours was deep, and like 2 to 3 other of those hours were like restless, or like regular sleep, right? And so like you can do with that what you will, like, whatever. But I've been following this really closely because I'm like, when and anybody who kind of like is like a sleep nerd also, when it's REM sleep, that's when you remember the weird dreams.
Like in the
Because
morning,
you're
closer to when you wake up, right?
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
not real, like you're asleep, but you're not deep sleeping. That's like a whole other part of your brain that like is really, really helpful. And REM is helpful as well, but like that's the weird stuff, the stuff
Hmm.
that you remember. Anyway, so last night, weirdly, and I live alone, and I have, if somebody were to come up to my front step, I have a light that comes on, like a, just
Essential light.
yeah, exactly. And when I'm like in my bed, kind of like sleeping, if the light comes on, I may notice it or maybe I don't. But last night I was kind of not sleeping well, and it came on. And I'm like, ah, fuck. It's probably one of those skunks again, because there are skunks around here, and you got to deal with skunks. And so like I kind of like knew that, I don't know, like I wasn't alone. I wasn't worried, but like I knew I wasn't alone. Like something is on my, like
It's a little
wants
creepy.
wants to, yeah, like wants to come into my house, and everything's locked and all, but like don't want a skunk to come into my house. Anyway, go back to sleep. And then my dream got real weird, Heather.
I can't
So
wait to hear this.
so so I had a dream, and this is like super like crazy, like Inception levels. If you've ever seen that movie,
Oh
like
yeah.
it got weird. So my dream was that I was being robbed because again the
Mm.
light went on and people were robbing me, and I had to let
Mm.
them in, and I had to let them take my, precious things.
At gunpoint?
Yes, at gunpoint, because that was why I wasn't like, get out of here. I was like, oh, you'll kill me if I don't let you. Like, you can just take everything. And they were taking my dog as well.
Oh my
So
God.
I know. So totally crazy. And then in my dream, I woke up, but I wasn't awake. I woke up and told my mother about the dream. And
In
she was
another
like,
dream.
yeah. I
Like you
was
had
like,
basically had another dream about the dream.
yeah, I was like, "Mom, I had this horrible dream. It was like really scary, and like, I wish you were here and blah blah blah." And she was like, "That's crazy. Like, why would you have that dream?" I don't know. I was asleep the entire time. And so then I eventually woke up the third time and was like, "Did someone rob me?" Like, I'm very confused at this point. Like, I
Yeah.
was so like weirded out. And like in a dream where in the dream, it seems like hours have passed.
Hmm.
But in real life, did it? Like I woke up and I was like, I literally walked around my house like, that wasn't real. That wasn't real. That was not real, right? Not real, right? Like looking outside, like snapping, like that wasn't real. Nothing was real. And but like I felt like I spent the entire night like dreaming this weird thing, and then dreaming that I woke up from the weird thing, but I hadn't woken up at all. I was still dreaming. Anyway, fuck that.
Honestly, Sarah, I have so much to say about this because this is like my almost every night for me. Like I'll have dream upon dream within the dream, and then I'll fall back asleep
Really?
into the dream. Elijah like says, oh, Elijah, my boyfriend who I sleep with, says that I talk in my sleep all the time, like every night.
Oh.
And I really every morning I tell him a dream. And like, it's funny that you wanted to talk about this today because I've been really tripping on my dreams and I've always had vivid dreams, always. And I just have to say, folks, listening, that Sarah would not talk about her dream unless it was like a really big deal. because she doesn't really go there a lot of times, and the fact that she's talking about her dreams is makes it that much more important. But I I have had I've had a lot of celebrities in my dreams since this quarantine, which is so bizarre. I had this the other night. I had a dream that I went to Tom Cruise's house. Granted, I
Oh
just
God.
watched War of the Worlds, but but when I went in the house, the thing that was so interesting about it was that um his place was so fancy and insane and massive, and I remember like the details of every room. It was like my brain created this like production design of the room. Like I like it was like the whole thing was like fabricated in my brain what his place looked like, and it was intricate and it was a big mansion, you know. And I had another dream about Howard Stern the other night, like giving me advice. And I mean, every night I have some weird kind of like, and I can't remember all the details, but I honestly, I have to say, I feel like my dreams make my life that much more interesting. I really feel like I have this like other alternative universe that I look forward to go. You know how people always say, "Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead," kind of thing. I always hated that expression because I love sleeping. I'm like,
Oh,
if I'm
it's
not
my
having a
favorite thing
nightmare,
in the
I
entire
love it.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always just like, I love bed. I love bed so much.
You know, it's funny because I have a friend, who friend of the show. I won't out him, but we were talking about, yeah, I don't know, just sleeping and life and whatever recently, and he said, "Fun fact, Sarah, because I know you would care about this. I started dreaming again. I haven't dreamed in like 10 years."
You're
And
like,
I
no,
was
dude, you have been dreaming. You just don't remember.
well,
Because
what
everybody dreams.
Well, yeah, like the funny thing about it to me was like I'm like because I'm again like trying to like I don't know, like I pay so much attention to that sort of stuff. I'm like, are you just not sleeping as well as you should be? Because that would be the reason that you would be REM sleeping, which is why you remembering like weird stuff, which is why you were telling me about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little too much to to put onto him, but like it's weird, like I don't know, like the whole dream stuff is fascinating to me. There are times where I'm like I wake up and I'm like that was just like nonsensical, and there are other
Yeah,
times where I'm like that really made sense, but it was weird.
me too. And I'm always like, I'm fascinated with like my brain. Like my brain obviously has this imagination because it creates these worlds that are just like,
Totally.
I used to write my dreams down in a journal. I still have the journal. Like it's from a long time ago. Cause ever since I was a kid, I had vivid dreams. But, um, well, it goes into the weird bucket. You know, dreams are weird right now. Life is weird. Pretty much everything is just like weird right now. And you know what else is weird?
What?
The vet. Have you gone to the vet since the lockdown? That's a weird
Oh,
experience.
I will assume that you're talking about the whole take my animal into the veterinarian
Dungeon.
establishment and I just sit outside weirdly
Yes, that's
because
exactly
I've
right.
done that and I didn't like it.
No, it's very strange. It's so like impersonal. And I mean, I sat in the car for 2 hours yesterday. And you know, I never met my vet in person. You know, you had like their assistant comes out with a mask and they kind of talk to you and they have a clipboard and everything is so like, you know, she's like sanitizing like my credit card and like all this stuff. And I felt mostly bad because my cat like freaks out, obviously. And I couldn't even go in the room with him. So like he's going in there
Yeah.
with a stranger. It's already stressful enough as it is. Also, like I had to pee. Like, where do I go? I'm like, that's been like a
Oh,
huge problem. Like, where because not every public bathroom is like open now. I'm
right,
actually
right.
veering off track here. But the last thing I'll say about it is that next time I'm bringing my badminton and bringing a friend, I'm going to play badminton in the parking lot or do something. Bring my bicycle. But the fact that it's the same price as I'm noticing this like with things like there's a somewhat fancy restaurant down the street from our place. And we've ordered takeout before and it's, you know, it's not cheap. And it's weird to get takeout from a fancy restaurant because it's just not the same, right? Like than getting served in a restaurant. It's the same thing. It's like they're charging the same amount, but it's completely not the same experience, not the same quality. And it's the same thing with this vet thing. It's like it's still a racket, but you're sitting in your car. It's just it's what a strange time. That's all I got to say, really.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I have gone through this as well. The last time with Otis and Lucy, the cat, I had to sit out in the parking lot. The vet is, I mean, thankfully not that far from me, so like a short drive. But yeah, I wasn't allowed inside. And with him, when I say him, I mean Otis the dog. Like he's kind of cool. With Lucy, it's not the same. Like, she's old, she's
Yeah.
elderly, she's on meds. Like, her going into, anywhere, like in her little carrier, like crying, and me not going with her is like very horrible for her and me.
Oh
And
yeah.
when the people came out with her, afterwards, like they had to take like blood work because she has like lymphoma and stuff. Like one of the women, it was like a vet tech, and
Hmm.
they're very nice there, like no fault of anyone's, but she almost
Sure.
like dropped her. And again, it's like on the cement, which would have been like really scary, and like I was so mad, and it was a whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to navigate things carefully these days. You just all these services are just so different now. I mean, everything's changed. So anyway, but on a lighter note, can we get on a lighter note here?
Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about deep fakes, Heather.
Oh, cool,
So
perfect.
yeah, I mean, talk about light. So, okay. So for anybody, a lot of you who are listening obviously know what we're talking about, but for anybody who doesn't, I'll just like do a little, let you know what deep fake porn means, which is the idea that, let's say that somebody wanted to take my head and put it onto a video of someone else performing something. That is a thing that is possible. Okay, fine. This is not new. Wired has a very good article that they published on August 27th about the fact that a lot of celebrities are now experiencing this, where it's like it's not so much that people don't realize that it's fake. People know it's fake, but
Mhm.
there's like a getting off thing that is associated with the fact that it might be you kind of thing.
Oh
So
man.
again, like taking celebrities out of this, because I don't want to, so celebrities will keep them out of this. Like if it were me, okay, if I were somebody were to watch a video where it's like, I know that's not Sarah, but it looks like it's her, and it looks pretty realistic,
Mhm.
and I watch it, and I'm perhaps paying for it on a service, of some
Mhm.
kind that's charging people to see this sort of thing. Where does that leave us? I don't
Mm.
know. It's so weird. I
That
wanted
is
to ask
really
you,
weird.
Heather. It's really weird, right? Yeah, like
Mhm.
because it's sort of like if it's not you, you could say, "I don't. It's not me. I don't care. This is fake," and it's like
But it's still your
Photoshop
face that
stuff.
looks like you. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And you could totally be like, I don't care. But if people are profiting off of this,
Mhm.
that's when you have to get involved,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because
Sure.
well, I mean, I guess you don't have to, but you probably would at that point because you're
Mhm.
like, this is really bad. Who are these awful people who are doing this to me? Kind of thing. So I wanted to ask you, Heather, like, have you ever seen anything online, not porn stuff, but just anything that felt like, yeah, this isn't real. And what do
Mhm.
we do about this? Because
Mhm.
this is a real thing that isn't going away.
Well, if you're talking about, I mean, there's a lot of not real stuff online, especially these days before an election. A lot of propaganda,
Mhm.
clickbait, all that kind of stuff is, I feel like the internet is just like, I miss old internet. Let me just say that. But what this reminds me of actually is, remember back in the day, not too long ago, but it was like the first hologram. I think it was at like Coachella or something, of an artist, and then it became controversial because it's like, if you create a hologram of Jay-Z, and they should get paid
I
more
think it
for
was
their image.
Tupac, right?
Or maybe it was Tupac. Yeah,
Wasn't
that's what
that
it
the
was.
Tupac thing at
You're
Coachella?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was like all this controversy over, well, how is that you're using his image? So yeah, I mean, there's got to be some kind of yeah, it broaches like some legal territory. So yeah, I mean, I think,
Definitely.
also it's just bad. I mean, people who do stuff like this, it should be stopped. I mean, it should be, um, there should be some kind of law or rule. I don't think people should just be willy nilly about whatever they want online. So, if someone was using I would be uncomfortable. I really would. I don't like that. I wouldn't want them, even if it wasn't me and it was, yeah, a Photoshop version of my face or my body. That would make me very uncomfortable. That was floating around some nasty, you know, site that I didn't even know about. Like, oh, that would make me
I
very
know.
uncomfortable, and I'd want to be
And
compensated for that, for
totally.
sure.
I honestly, like, I mean, I'm so sort of like, I don't know, maybe it's my age or the weight of the world or whatever. Like, I'm like, you want to make me into a porn? Great, go for it. Have fun. But once like I kind of don't care, but like once I hear that somebody is profiting off of that
Mhm.
and people are confused as to whether or not I'm involved, that's where it gets weird. That's where I'm like, actually, no, you can't do it.
They might be mad at you. I mean, then you're involved and they'll be like, "Well, wait," there
Right.
might be some disappointment toward you because of something, and that's not fair. They're using your image without your permission. So, yeah, I mean, that is, so is this getting to be like a pretty rampant thing? Like, is this, what are some other examples of it?
Well, I mean, honestly, a lot of the porn stuff is why these things make news
Mhm.
because again, people are like, "Whoa, that's insane."
Mhm.
Like you can't do that to me. But really, I mean, the deep fake, and again, I'm using air quotes when I say that. That also applies to politicians saying things that did they
Mhm.
say them? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Then it is up to the politician to be like, I didn't say that. This is fake, and
Mhm.
here's why. Because somebody went into, some sort of a post production program, and did some stuff. Like I don't know, man. I I feel like we're still on the precipice of where this is going to go.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a ha ha, celebrities are mad that they're getting put into porn videos that they weren't in. But
Mhm.
it actually, it's something that we should all be aware of and vigilant about what we do if we were unfortunately a part of it.
And it's part of a huger problem. I mean, especially now. I mean, feel like this is one of the most confusing times because there's so much propaganda. There's so much information online that you have to fact check. Like, how do you know what you're reading is true? I feel like you have to read between the lines like more than ever now.
Yeah.
And it's really scary. It's like, the internet used to be, well, I mean, it always had like wacky, wacky things, but I don't know. I have a really hard time believing what I read these days. And I think that this is, yeah, it's part of a deeper problem. And yeah, I think it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But yeah, keep us posted on that. That's really fascinating.
I will, Heather. Well, man, everything's so crazy these days.
Everything's
So
crazy.
it really is. But moving on to how you doing?
I know. Well, it's funny because I really wanted to talk about horror movies again, but I thought that I would spare you. I know we have a lot of
I don't
fans
care
who
if you
just
talk about
joke.
horror movies. I'm just saying, like, I'm
Well,
always like the
I
person who's like, I don't know
I
about
probably
anything
have
horror
I
movie.
mean, I've talked about it enough. I'll save it for like a later episode, but I did come across something interesting, but I'll save it. I just find it all very fascinating, like psychologically. But what I want to talk about is I came across sort of like this study that wasn't really a study. It was sort of like a bunch of people got interviewed, and they were sort of young or adults, I would say probably in their 30s and 40s. And it was a variety of people who decided to leave Los Angeles for one reason or another. Most of their reasons were high rent, commute time, too much time on the road, stress, you know, they wanted to have a family, so they wanted more space. I mean, a lot of them were honestly the same reasons, cost of living, that kind of thing. But they loved LA. They loved the food. They had all their friends there. They loved the environment, the palm trees, et cetera, et cetera. All the things that you, Sarah, and we talk about all the time that we
Of
love and
course. Yeah, LA is great.
yeah. And for me, like my whole draw to Los Angeles, I come from a small town, small-ish town. It's bigger now, but when I was a kid, it was a smaller town. And I think that I definitely have a small town mentality ingrained in me, but it's been buried because I've been in big cities for my whole adult life. But like my biggest fear, I have to say, about like why I was really kicking and screaming to leave LA, other than like the good food and obviously my good friends, but the creative energy and not being able to be part of that really freaked me out. Like I want to be part of the movements and like what are these creative movements? What are people thinking and talking about? And I love that. Like that actually feeds
Yeah.
my fire. I was wondering how if I could maintain kind of creative motivation in a smaller town, and that this article, these interviews with these people were kind of that. Like, how do you're a creative person, you left LA for these reasons. There are trade-offs. Obviously, you move anywhere, there's going to be trade-offs, especially from like such a drastic city to like a drastic country, town. And it was so interesting reading about what these people were saying, what they left behind, which was honestly mostly food and friends. But they were stoked to leave the traffic. They were stoked to leave the bad air. That again, trade-offs. Everything is a trade-off. But it was
Right.
so cool because all these cities they went to, it was like everywhere. It was like mostly United States, but it was like Nashville and like Austin and some smaller places, somewhere in Maine, like a small town. So it was like a wide range of kind of smallish cities to like smaller towns. And it was really cool to read about how they found creative outlets. And for me personally, I think I needed there was a necessary slowing down that I needed, because I think in production in Los Angeles, in a place like a city like that that's buzzing and there's ambient noise and light everywhere constantly, you're just I feel like I was buzzing all the time and I couldn't relax and I couldn't get my thoughts straight. And ever since I've actually been in a smaller place, like I'm not slogging 9 to 5, I'm not drained from commuting. I feel like my mind is a different place. Like I feel like it's kind of worrying with like little exciting side projects and creative thoughts and ideas of like, all kinds of things. I mean, I create lists. I'm like a list person. Like you're a data person, I'm a list person. And, again, it's everything from like, I don't know, like picking up tennis again to doing a gardening podcast to writing a children's book and like a graphic novel and I've literally started all these things. Like this is
Yeah.
something that like I know I can do.
I think that's so great. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
great because I think, again, if you lived in LA, you might still live there. You may have never lived there, but you may have lived in another place that's kind of chaotic, and
Mhm.
chaotic in a great way where you're like,
Sure.
yeah, love the city. Love
Mhm.
love the energy.
Mhm.
But when you get out of it, sometimes reluctantly. I
Oh, for
think
sure.
Heather and I both kind of were like, "Oh, all right, we're gonna, go
Yeah.
live in the country and see how it goes." I mean, the benefits, they really present themselves pretty quickly, where you're like, "Wow, I am like better. I'm a better person.
Exactly. And this is the dilemma though, because you don't want to jump off that edge, that take that risk because it doesn't feel good at the time. You have to do it to get there, to sink into it, to really understand what it is and why you went there and what the benefits are. But I
Yeah.
agree, it's such a trade-off. It's like you get, fresh air, quiet, good sleeping, like for, yeah, you're missing out on you maybe not be able to go to the theater every weekend or go see a concert or, it's a trade-off. And as I've gotten older, I feel like that is such a huge learning lesson is every decision you make, you're trading something off for something else. And you're right. You're completely right, Sarah. It's, there's so many positives that you can't even really wrap your head around when you're in the city and you're thinking about doing it. It's
Yeah.
like almost too hard to get there.
Well, and okay, so like for example, I'm up in NorCal, hanging out. We had some fire issues. Things are good. We're, on the up and up, but I'm still kind of like I live among the redwoods in the country. And and I have some friends who were, up here and went back to LA because the air was bad and whatever. And I was like, "How's LA? How are you
Uh-huh.
doing? Tell me everything. Are you going to fun shows?" And they were like, "Sarah, no. I mean, it's pandemic. I mean, we're not doing anything. We're just here." you know,
Yeah.
where I'm like, I have to remind myself, like, and trust me, I mean, if you're like going to fun shows and having a great time, good on you. But
Uh-huh.
no one really is.
No.
And it's if you're in a city, it's almost worse because you're like
Mhm.
you're just sitting there being like, I'm here to experience all this great stuff and I can't do any of that. Where I or you are kind of like, we're just doing nature. So what are we missing really anyway?
No, exactly. This is like such a good time to be doing what we're doing because it's like there's not a lot of FOMO. And like, I don't know, I feel like I've spread my wings. I mean, I barely started, but I definitely feel like I have like the mind space for creating something of my own and not feeling this. Like, I think in LA, I wanted to be part of a team and I wanted to be part of like a company, and a company culture. But like, do I really want to do that? I don't know anymore. Like, I don't think you have to step away to really realize what it
Yeah.
is that you really need. But
Yeah.
anyway, I might be going down too deep of a rabbit hole here, but I thought it's an interesting topic. We can talk about it again on the show. Um, if you guys become a patron, because we need you to be able to talk about this more.
That's
So,
right. That's right. That's right. Speaking of patrons, Heather, how does one become a patron?
oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. You just go to patreon.com/have such a good day. You could Google have such a good day. You'll come across this profile on patreon.com. And it's so easy. Right there, we've got 3 tiers: $, $5, $10. They all have little perks. Choose what fits your lifestyle and join, select the join button. And it's that easy. And then you can listen to ad-free content and you get to see some behind the scenes stuff in the Lens app that Patreon so graciously has provided. And we're a little community. It's been really fun to communicate with all you guys, and we want more. We want more of you. We want to have a little empire. So
We do.
please come hang with us and get your laugh on.
Yeah, and Heather alluded to the fact that if you're a patron and you subscribe at any level, you get a tier of the show that is ad free. We also have an ad supported show for people who can't support or aren't ready to support. All good. Not going to ask anything about that stuff, but that those are your options, and we hope that wherever you are in your life, as long as you kind of want to hang out with us, we give you options. So those are them.
Exactly. Yeah, and we want to say thanks to some current some subscribers this last week. Chris Stab, Mr. Napoleon, Jillian Misrat Gilbetti. Hi,
Woo,
Jill.
Julie, I know you.
Victor Bahena and Bilal Nasir. Welcome, everybody. Bring your friends and your
Welcome.
family.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Also, we got a bunch of emails and we will try to, go through them as much as possible. But just to say, like, thank you so much for all the emails. We feel very
We love
loved.
them. Oh, they're so much
Yeah.
fun.
Heather, you want to take this first one?
Sure. So from Ron, I love this podcast because it's like eavesdropping on two friends catching up, talking about the same things I talked to my friend about, but with wine. It's so true, Ron. I'm lucky to still be employed and have been working from home for years. Apparently, he was in Iceland when the shit got real and the travel ban was about to go into effect. Though, as a US citizen, he couldn't get home. He happened to land at 6 p.m. on
He
Friday,
could
March
get
13th.
home. He could.
He could get home, yes. He happened
Yeah.
to land at 6 p.m. on Friday, March 13th, when the travel ban and long lines began 6 hours later. So he went from an incredible natural beauty where he was watching the news to coming home to shelter in place, a startling contrast. And he says, as a digital worker, I've loved reconnecting with paper. I write in a paper journal and a paper planner on the daily. I've also realized this is so much harder on extroverts than for introverts like me. That is such a good point, Ron. Thanks
Oh
for
my
writing
God.
in. But
You're
yeah, the introvert
speaking Heather's
extrovert thing.
language on that
I
one.
know.
I'm like,
Totally.
paper, stop it. Don't do it.
Pens,
Um,
pencils.
yeah, God, you were writing things. No, I mean, I'm kidding. But Ron, man, coming from Iceland, which is the most beautiful place on earth, honestly. I can't imagine what you've been going through since March. So, thank you for writing us and thanks
Sharing
for
your story.
yeah, and making us feel like we were part of your journey. We really appreciate it. We also got a message from Tina. This was going to Heather Frank specifically. Tina says, not sure if you listen to the By the Book podcast, but they have an episode where they followed the Little Book of Haig.
Actually, I wanted to mention I pronounced it wrong the last episode. It's Huga, not
Oh,
Hige. I think I said Hige, but it's
oh,
Huga. Huga. But that's
okay.
the Danish like lighting thing I was talking about in last episode. And Mike Mills, he says, I totally agree on the importance of lighting and hating the blue tone of many LEDs. I've been using hue bulbs for as long as I can remember. I have different lighting schemes for early evening TV watching, think sunset yellows and orange, then a darker purple for late night movie watching, and other fun presets for the holidays. To me, lighting is all about the mood and atmosphere, but to her, it's more about functionality. Oh, yes, Mike, I can totally relate to this. I have a similar situation with my partner.
Oh man, yeah, and for anyone again, like recently we were talking about, Heather was like, I don't like that LED light. And I was like, girl, get some, smart lighting.
Uh-huh.
Um, but that's a whole thing that
Mhm.
not everybody is, willing to do. And Mike saying that he's got some hue bulbs and he's doing kind of his,
He's geeking
you
out.
know, uh lightning schemes,
I
exactly,
love
like,
it.
I mean, you're speaking my language, Mike. However, it's kind of funny that his wife is like, "I don't really want that. I just want stuff where it's, like, well lit, where I'm, like, cooking food or doing things." And that, like, totally makes sense to me
I
too, because
agree.
sometimes you just need light.
I wish I didn't care. Like sometimes I'm like, why am I so particular about that? Like I wish I didn't care. I wish I didn't like, yeah, my partner, I don't know what you're talking about. Like maybe my eyes are sensitive. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but yeah, I know. I wish I wasn't particular about it. So I envy that.
Well, alright, we'll do a whole smart light thing with you, Heather, because
We will.
I just like it would give me no greater pleasure
I
than to
would
just
love
be like,
that.
let's all have like, smart lighting where we have like fun scenes and we can all talk about how fun they are. All right, during Natividad, before we wrap up, our mailbag section says, Heather, I've got gnats, and they just appeared out of nowhere. So I had to chuckle a bit when you said that they were plaguing your life as well. Misery loves company.
Don't we know it? Those were super fun. Thank you. Keep them coming.
Please do. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I mean, listen, your feedback feeds our life.
It does.
Joey, hope the gnats went away. But for us on this episode, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Heather and I love you so much. Thank you, everybody who subscribes, who has spread the word, who is just like the coolest person and hanging out with us. And we couldn't be more happy to do this every week. And thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have such a good day.